Welcome to the BPOI Daily Bitcoin Update. Remember, if you could like and subscribe to our channel, that would be appreciated. Right, let's take a look at the market. Morning, guys. 9:34 on Tuesday, and this is the Daily Bitcoin Update, but I just wanted to bring to your attention the latest news and escalation with regards to Russia and Ukraine. You have to keep an eye on this news because this will affect crypto prices if sanctions are placed on Russia and if Russia decides to go to war with Ukraine. We will see certainly global markets and cryptocurrency markets be affected by these actions. Okay, so keep an eye on the news. Russia orders troops into eastern Ukraine. Russia President Vladimir Putin has ordered troops into two rebel-held regions in eastern Ukraine after recognizing them as independent states. Okay, so what that spells out, I guess for the UK, I'm based in the UK, is that Boris Johnson said if one TOCAP should move into Ukraine territory, then there would be sweeping sanctions across Russia, including Russian business owners in the UK. And the same goes for Europe as well. So there is going to be sweeping sanctions across the board. I think they are going to get signed off very, very shortly. And then we are likely to see a further escalation, I would imagine, of this situation. So just pay attention to what's going on, because minute by minute this could affect the global markets and the cryptocurrency markets as things escalate or de-escalate. Should things de-escalate, then we could see a bit more confidence in the market. If things continue to escalate and the rhetoric is ramped up, which it seems to be doing, then potentially it's going to affect the markets, and it's not going to be a positive thing for Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price, and the altcoin markets. If anything, money is going to flow from Bitcoin and from cryptocurrencies, which are high risk assets, into the dollar or into gold, or those assets which are less at risk. Okay, so when money flows away from cryptocurrencies, obviously it affects the price, and the price moves down. So we just need to keep an eye on this story. Next, we're just going to look at pre-markets. Okay, so markets were closed yesterday. It was a national holiday in America. And they opened today in the UK. The S&P 500, which is the main focus for us, opens at 2:30. Okay, but pre-markets are suggesting that they are down. Okay, so this isn't a good sign for the Bitcoin price action at 2:30 when these markets open. Okay, there's a strong possibility that the Bitcoin price will move down in correlation to the opening prices of the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. Okay, so it's all looking a bit red at the moment and not looking good at all. Okay, Asian markets opened and they are also down, so we're seeing Asian markets down. They've had a horrid time recently, and mainly because of this escalation with regards to Russia and Ukraine. And the biggest issue affecting global markets is supply chain. Okay, so Russia obviously produces a lot of electrical goods, if you like, for the rest of the world. And if those supply chains are cut off, don't forget energy as well, gas and oil and various other things. If those supply chains are cut off, then it's going to affect the rest of the world, and therefore it's going to affect the markets. And we're already seeing where the Asian markets have opened. We're seeing some really, really bad results from the Asian markets right now. Okay. The other thing to keep an eye on is the price of oil. You might not think it's relative, but Brent crude oil is currently $99.15 per barrel. Okay. There was this big conversation about, I think it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago, could Brent crude oil reach $100 a barrel, or WTI crude oil reach $100 a barrel? And we're almost there. And don't forget, if the price of oil continues to increase, the price of fuel continues to increase. Fuel increases, it affects the everyday person within the economy of each country. So suddenly there's less money to spend in the economy because of rising prices. Okay, cost of fuel, cost of food, cost of goods, etc. Supply chain issues generally will push the price up. So supply chain issues will affect the ability to obviously supply goods to consumers. So it has economic factors. So you know, the war in or the potential war between Russia and Ukraine will have wide spreading effects on global markets. So when this opens at 230, I would expect, so if we go over to Bitcoin now, let me remove that and remove that, I would expect quite a bit of volatility between 1230 and 230, okay? As we draw closer to markets opening and people can get a better idea of where the S&P 500, Nasdaq and various other global markets are going to open, I would imagine we will see a degree of volatility. It seems to be happening every day at the moment when the markets open. So if you look at the chart around about 12:30 to 1:30 to 2:30, around about that time, you're kind of getting some choppy trading going on. So let's keep an eye on that. And for now, let's just have a look at what Bitcoin is doing. So we're just going to tidy this chart up a bit. So we identified this ascending triangle, okay, and we had a breakdown from that ascending triangle, generally a bullish pattern. We had a breakdown, and just to recap, if I go down to the 30-minute time frame, because we're going to see things a little bit clearer. Okay, so this was the breakdown. We had a retest, failed, so try to break back into the pattern, okay. Very small double top there, breakdown. We had then a channel, downward channel. We had a breakdown from that downward channel, okay, and this particular trend line here. So I drew in this trend line once I had enough points to connect, okay, so we had the points here, so I drew in this lower trend line. You see the price action was following, and then all of a sudden we had a breakdown of that trend line. We then had a bearish retest of that trend line, and or this new trend line was drawn in, so this downward trend line was drawn in. And then what we're finding is recently that we have moved down, we bounce off this particular trend. I'll show you this trend in a minute, and then we're bearish retesting this trend line, and then we've had another breakdown and we're bearish retesting this trend line. Okay, let me go to the 4-hour chart. So this trend line at the bottom here, and this is why it's so important to draw in trend lines. Okay, I drew in this particular trend line. Let me change the color so we can see it a bit better. Okay, I drew in this particular trend line as soon as we had a point here. So if we look at this particular area here, you'll understand what I mean. So we had a move upwards, okay, so we had a move down, a test of this area here, and then we had a move upwards. So I immediately drew that trend line in. And then what we're finding is we've had a breakdown, and now this trend line is acting as bearish resistance. Okay, so that's kind of the journey that Bitcoin has been taken. So it's constantly making leg down after leg down after leg down, which you would expect in a bearish short-term market at the moment. Okay, this was the bullish side of things. This is the bearish side of things. Okay. So I'm just going to tidy this chart up a bit. So I'm going to get rid of this particular pattern here. Okay, we don't necessarily need that pattern anymore. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this one as well. Don't necessarily need that one, although it may act as resistance in the future. I'm not too concerned because there's support resistance levels already plotted. Okay, what I am going to do though is I'm just going to put this one trend line back in. Okay, and just leave that one there for the time being, because this may act as resistance in the future. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there. And you can see I've gone from the bottom, touched in these two candles here, and then straight through, straight up. Okay, now what I want to look at is what the price action is doing at the moment, and this is quite interesting because we identified the double bottom. This is our target. Okay, so this is what we're expecting to happen. We're expecting a double bottom down in this area here. Okay, so this would be the one side, and then this would be the other side. This would be a bullish reversal pattern, strong move up is expected. Okay, if we manage to hold this level. However, we have just formed another smaller double bottom, which potentially may be confusing people a little bit. Okay, so you can see there's a double bottom there. So we're currently getting this strong move up. Say strong move up, we're getting a move up. I wouldn't class this as particularly strong at the moment. So it's interesting that people might be trading on this idea, and it'll be interesting to see whether at the moment Bitcoin can actually break above this trend line again. Okay, so we've got two areas of resistance right now. We've got this area here, and then we've got 37,817 as an area of resistance, and then we've got this trend line as well. So Bitcoin just in the very near term, very short term, needs to get to here for bullish continuation. Okay, and I'm not sure it's going to do. I'm not even sure it's going to break this trend line, to be honest with you. So what people might be identifying as a double bottom could be a bit of a red herring, as we say in the UK. So yes, okay, it's a double bottom pattern, we can see that, but it's not the target that I think the majority of traders would be going for. The majority of traders are likely to be going for this much larger double bottom and a continuation down, particularly with regards to the market conditions at the moment, the war that potentially will happen any day, and just general feeling that markets are not in a particularly good way. So we're just waiting to see at the moment whether Bitcoin can break higher. So essentially we need to be above 37,817 and this trend line to say, okay, there's a chance that this will continue upwards. And we may find that it does continue upwards, but at 2:30 when the SPX opens, S&P 500 opens, then it could be a completely different story. So trading right now is extremely high risk because it's so volatile. It's touch and go with a war in Russia. We got markets opening at global markets opening at 2:30. We're already seeing Asian markets down. The likelihood is global markets, so S&P 500, Nasdaq, they'll be down as well. And I think that's just going to drag the rest of the markets down with it, particularly cryptocurrency. And then you've got people sending their money into gold and low risk assets, and money flowing from Bitcoin into those particular assets, if you like, just to safeguard their wealth. You'd be crazy. You got a million sitting in Bitcoin, and there's a war on the horizon, and the price of Bitcoin could collapse. Whereas gold is increasing. Where would you put your money? You would put your money in gold. Wait for this to all blow over, and then literally buy back into Bitcoin if you wanted to buy back into Bitcoin. That's where the smart money is. Those who are high risk traders are continuing to trade this particular market, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give the information to allow you guys to be able to trade a bit more effectively. Okay, so I just want to look at the daily time frame just to get the bigger picture and to see where we're trading at the moment. So if we look at this area here, so this is the falling wedge that we're currently in. Okay, we were in a previous falling wedge, which is this line right here. Okay, let me just draw this again very quickly. Trend line tool. I'm going to change this to, actually, let me draw the trend line in. So we were in this falling wedge. Okay, and this is where we were trading since November time, 8th of November, okay? So we had a touch at the top, touch at the bottom, touch at the top, touch at the bottom, move up, and then we had the breakout, okay? So that was the 68% chance, breaks higher, broke out, started moving upwards. But throw in a war and issues in global markets, etc., and we've just had this breakdown. So now what we've done is we've redrawn the trend line to here. So this trend line here, okay, is now the falling channel. So not necessarily falling wedge, but the falling channel that we're trading in. Now, if we are to trade in this particular channel, then the idea would be that you would continue to trade in this sort of motion until you actually break this upper trend line. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to, or what we must be aware of is that we will continue to trade down until we break this upper trend line. So unless we break this upper trend line, we are going in this direction. If we break this upper trend line, then there's a possibility that we will be bullish and continue upwards. Okay, so draw this channel in onto your charts and just be aware of where we're trading. So on the bigger time frames, we're in a downward trend. On the smaller time frames, unfortunately now, so 4 hour, 1 hour, we're in a downward trend. Okay, so we just need to be aware of what's going on. So let's go back to the 1 hour time frame. I'm going to reset the chart. Just going to change the color of this back to 0 opacity because we don't need that on at the moment. Okay, let's just have a look at this move right now. Okay, so you can isolate moves. So we're going to isolate this move. So we've got our trend line here. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker just so we can identify it. Okay, so we're essentially moving down. This is the direction that we're moving in on the 1 hour time frame, which we're working on now. And then I'm just going to draw in another trend line. Okay, just did a video on trend line, so I'll be posting that soon. Okay, so we're looking around about this area. So we're in a falling wedge. So 68% chance that this falling wedge breaks to the upside. Again, we seem to be having falling wedge after falling wedge after falling wedge, and they keep breaking down. Okay, so I wish there was a redo function in TradingView. There we go. Okay, so expectation at the moment is we've got resistance overhead. On the 1 hour, we've got the 21 SMA. This is this red line at the moment overhead. We've got this trend line, which is acting as resistance overhead, and we've got 37,817 acting as resistance. So again, just to reiterate, we're looking for a break of this upper trend line, a retest, okay, and then a move higher. And when we say a retest, we're looking for a 4-hour candle close above this trend line, just to give us a little bit of hope that Bitcoin might be starting to move up in this much bigger downtrend that we're trading in at the moment. Okay, we need to move up across to here to be able to have a chance of breaking out of this longer term downtrend. Okay, so what are my expectations at the moment? So I am still suggesting that we are looking at a move down to this area here. 32,919 is still my estimation on where we might see a reversal from Bitcoin. Okay, we possibly may bounce off this particular trend line here, which is a long-term trend line. I'll show you that one in a minute. Let's just color that in yellow just for a second. Okay, we may see a bounce off this trend line here, or we may see a bounce just before 32,919 as people are filling orders, okay, prior to it reaching the double bottom scenario. So in order to guarantee that your order gets filled, you generally buy in before the actual support line, and then the price action may move down to the support line and then start to move up again. My concern, actually, let me just show you this trend line. So this goes to the daily time frame. Okay, reset the chart. Okay, you can see, actually let's just go to the weekly, it's going to be easier. You can see this box that I've turned yellow. Okay, you can see that this has been an area of support. Bear in mind, this is the weekly time frame. This has been a big area of support before. So there's a strong possibility that we will bounce off this particular trend line if the price action does move down to that area. Okay, so just be aware of this particular trend line as well that is currently yellow, that I'm just about to turn back to a white. Okay, this particular trend line here, I'm going to make it thicker because it's something that we definitely need to be more aware of. Okay, so I'm thinking that we're going to see rejection either on this trend line or somewhere here. We're going to see a move back down, trade in this falling wedge, and then I'm expecting a breakdown. Okay, I'm expecting a parabolic move down, so a breakdown, strong move down to this particular area here. There are buy orders lined up in this area, but obviously buy orders can change, buy walls can change, so you just need to be aware of that. But I'm expecting there to be some sort of bounce in and around this area. Now that does largely depend on markets opening in a few hours time and war with Russia. If Russia basically declare war on the Ukraine, then you know, this whole idea of this double bottom and strong bullish reversal pattern and continuation upwards and all-time highs basically goes out the window. I would imagine we will start to see, if we go to the 4-hour chart, let's reset this chart, I would imagine we will start to see 28,000 Bitcoin, if not around about 24,000 Bitcoin and possibly 20,000 Bitcoin. You know, if we're going to war and global markets start to tank and, you know, the outlook is pretty much bleak and economic factors worldwide are affected, then, you know, Bitcoin's not going to go up. You know, we're not going to see money flow into one of the highest risk assets on the planet. So I think what we're going to find is if we do break down, we may get this bounce, but if war breaks out or tensions continue to increase, then I just think this is going to amount to nothing, and I believe we're just going to continue to move downwards. This gap here is a CME gap, so let's go to the CME chart. Okay, and there were two gaps. Okay, there was basically what happens is markets close over the weekend. When they open on a Monday, it forms gaps within the market price. Okay, and those gaps are orders which haven't been filled. So we can see that as of when the markets opened, we had this gap, and then we had this move to fill this gap. Okay, didn't quite fill it there. and then filled it on the second attempt. So if I draw a horizontal line, I believe it's been filled anyway. Not quite filled yet. Okay, so that's quite interesting actually. I thought that one had been filled. Oh no, so the gap was there. No, it hasn't quite been filled yet. Okay, so we may well see right now, and this is why you've got to be aware of these CME gaps, we might well see the price action move up to this sort of level here to fill this gap before it starts to move back down again. So 39,870 is probably an area that we would need to mark on our charts. And let's just do that now. So 38,970. Okay, and I'm just going to turn that blue just so I can identify that as the CME gap. So we may well see a move up to fill this CME gap, 38,970, which would allude to us having this breakout, but I'm not sure that is going to hold. Okay, so market makers can basically affect the price to an extent to fill orders, and we may well see this move up to fill this order, and then price come back down. I don't think that will happen. I think either way, regardless of if the price moves down, it's such a small order book that I think the price will move down, and they'll know that this will get filled eventually. Okay, the one to be concerned about is if you go to the daily time frame. Sorry. Okay, reset the chart. The one to really look at is this one here. Okay, so this one was printed on the 23rd of December 2020, 24th of December 2020, Christmas Eve, and still hasn't been filled yet. Okay, the price of that is at around 24,595 to 26,100. Okay, if Bitcoin continues to move down to these areas and Bitcoin breaks this area here, in particular 28,831, and has a bearish retest of that area, turns it into resistance, then very strong probability we will see the price action move down to fill this particular gap, 24, 25, 26 area. It would just make sense for them to take the opportunity to fill that gap. Okay, and remember, if I go to the weekly or the daily time frame again, let's go to the 3-day, sorry, reset the chart. Okay, what we don't want to be doing, I'm just going to hide this for a second. Okay, what we don't want to be doing is breaking down lower than 28,831. Okay, because on the weekly time frame, or on the 3-day time frame even, we can see, now let's go to the weekly, we can see that that was our higher low. And if we move beyond that particular point there, so 28,831, if we break down further than there and then confirm it as resistance, we're essentially moving into a downtrend, a new downtrend, and that could see the lows of 20,000, if not lower. So we do not want to be moving down. So we've got a higher low here, we've had to move up, we've got a higher high, we've had to move down, we've got a higher low, we've had to move up, we've got a higher high. What we need to be putting in is another higher low. Okay, so we're confirming this uptrend, which was that large box that I just hid. But if we move down below this level, we're putting in a lower low, and then essentially we're confirming potentially a new downtrend on a much bigger scale, and we may see Bitcoin continue down further. Okay, so have that marked, 28,831, have that marked. We don't want to be dropping below that and then confirming or turning it into resistance. If we wick down, that's fine, happy to wick down past that level. But if we move below that level and then we basically turn that level into strong resistance, then our confirmed downtrend. Okay, so just be aware of that. Right. So just a very quick recap. Actually, SPX. So obviously, just looking at the SPX, waiting for the markets to open. But based on the pre-market conditions at the moment, unless they change, I'm expecting the SPX to move down. Might have a slight move up, but I'm expecting the price action to move down. These are our targets. We've had these targets for about 2 weeks, 4296 and 4224. Again, though, tensions in Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine. If those start to escalate and global markets start to perform badly, then we can see this drop a lot lower. And there is a lot of talk about the SPX really dropping to around the early 300, so 3550, 3500, round about this area. So if there is a degree of correlation with regards to Bitcoin and the SPX, which there seems to be at the moment, but it can decouple at any time, then potentially you can possibly see Bitcoin moving down with the SPX moving forward. Bitcoin shorts, not too much happening with Bitcoin shorts at the moment. This is one of our alerts that we have in the channel. So as Bitcoin shorts start to increase, we get an alert. As they decrease, we get an alert, but they are increasing at the moment. And generally, it's a sign that people are expecting the price action to move down. Okay. Bitcoin dominance, we spoke about this the other day, not too concerned with monitoring Bitcoin dominance at the moment, because essentially we monitor this to see how well altcoins are going to perform, but we're not trading altcoins right now because the market's very, very tricky. Okay, everything is moving down, so unless you're short in the market, you're not really going to make any profits. Very, very high risk if you're trading against the trend. So that's on the weekly. Let's have a look at the 4 hour and try and see what's going on the 4 hour. So we're just looking for, again, we're just looking for some sort of rejection and a move down, whether that be on this trend line or this trend line, or whether it rolls over. Potentially we're in a wedge already. So if we get our trend lines and we just draw very, very quickly, we can just see where Bitcoin dominance is trading at the moment. So we could see Bitcoin dominance trading in this way. For those of you who don't know, Bitcoin dominance, if Bitcoin dominance moves up, so it starts to move up and pumps upwards, altcoins don't do particularly well. If Bitcoin dominance moves down, then altcoins perform a lot better. It's all to do with money flow, and we're covering that in another video that we're doing, tutorial video. So we're working on a fast track trading academy, and that will be launching soon for members. Okay, so Bitcoin, let's wrap it up. Key things to look at today. Okay, so we're waiting for the the SPX to open at 2:30. We're going to keep an eye on the news. Okay, the news is going to affect the price action. We're going to keep an eye on Bitcoin right now because we want to identify if Bitcoin is actually going to be able to break above these areas. Right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be able to do that. We're already seeing another rejection of this particular trend line. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rejections of this trend line already. Essentially, the bears would be lined up here. The bears are seeing blood at the moment, and they're just lining up in every area. So as we get a breakdown, sell walls are going up. As we get a breakdown, sell walls are going up. And it's just a case of the prices under so much pressure. And don't forget, bulls just don't want to be buying in these areas. That's very easy for the bears to push the price down. So we're completely in their hands at the moment with regards to the price action. And it'll be interesting to watch the next 24 hours how the Bitcoin price does. Target at the moment 32,919 or around about 34,127 area to have a bounce off that longer term trend line. So we're either looking at a move down, we'll break down from here, we'll turn that into resistance, we'll break down of this falling wedge, move down, may get a bounce here, or we'll move down to double bottom territory where we might see bullish reversal pattern depending on global markets, war, and various other things. So I think that's a fairly good roundup of where I'm at the moment, but I do believe, and I haven't even looked at the SMAs, the Cme clouds, and various other indicators, because I just don't feel we need to look at those right now. I think there's an understanding of where the price action is going, regardless of whether the indicators are bullish. I just don't think people are buying Bitcoin in these areas right now. It would make sense for everybody to wait until this particular area and then look to buy in abundance in this area. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. If you have any questions, just post them in the thread. Remember, we have a trading group with 12 Telegram channels covering everything in crypto. Feel free to reach out to us and ask any questions. My email address, simon@bpoi.uk. Feel free to drop me a line if you want to. and we will see you in the next video. For those in the group, I'll continue to monitor Bitcoin throughout the day, and I'll post updates just so we can be aware of what's going on. And I'll also keep an eye on the markets, and I'll keep an eye on the news. So I've got the minute by minute up-to-date news streaming, so we can see if there's any vamping up of the rhetoric, and if in fact things are going to turn bad very quickly, we'll be able to identify that. Okay, so I'll leave it there, and have a good day trading. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and also if you could like and subscribe, that would be appreciated. Thank you.